Hey, you guys, welcome to Alex and Andy Live. It is Tuesday, the 31st of May, a very iconic or very significant day here in Shanghai because it is the last day of our citywide lockdown, which for many people was 2 months. For others, it was even longer. You're looking at a live shot now of Lu Jiazui. A beautiful evening out. Many people have been out today looking around, so it's been a good day here in Shanghai as this battle with COVID comes to an end. So it's our last show again today. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will bring you today the latest numbers, obviously. Today we had 9 new asymptomatic cases and 9 new symptomatic, 22 new asymptomatic with 1 community infection. So the numbers are way down, which is awesome, which is why the lockdown is about to end from midnight tonight. So right now in Shanghai at 7:30 p.m, so about another 4.5 hours, the city will completely open up and public transportation will begin again. Obviously, the metro and things like that won't begin at midnight, but you can call taxis and things as usual. And also, a big one, the Juweihui will no longer be able to restrict your movement if you're in Shanghai, which is awesome news for a lot of people. Pretty soon I'll share some interesting numbers, interesting stats from the Shanghai lockdown. We'll talk about some companies that are going to be back in business as usual tomorrow with no need for a special license, which is also great news. But it's also important to remember that some people still remain locked down in Shanghai as we revert to the old system, which was high, medium and low risk areas. That's been the case in Shanghai for the past 2 years. Where any area, for example, a Xiaoqu, a compound which has cases, needs to lock down for 2 weeks. So any of those areas which are high or medium risk in the city will not be coming out of lockdown tonight at midnight. So yeah, that should be pretty soon though. We're going to talk about the venue code you need to use in Shanghai once the city opens again, everywhere you go. This is important stuff. But now without further ado, here's my colleague, Alex. How's it going, Alex?
All right, I am a lot of feelings and emotions now that this is finally coming to a close, at least for the vast majority of us. Obviously, thoughts are with those who are unable to come out of lockdown tomorrow, but it is a very small percentage of the population of the city. I was talking with some friends today about a few things. I'm a bit nervous, a bit apprehensive even a little bit. And I definitely want to go out, and I'm definitely going to. Obviously, I'm going to be seeing you tomorrow at the office and all the rest of my colleagues, so I'm looking forward to that. But I feel like at 6 to 8 weeks is after a big change in life or a big sort of paradigm shift is just about the amount of time that it requires you to get mentally and physically used to it in your routine. So I feel like a lot of us over the very tail end of this sort of situation have really become used to our new sort of paradigm, our new situation. And now we're back to normal, boom. Or at least, for the majority, by and large, there are obviously still some things that are different.
Yeah, I know a lot of people at the moment are saying they don't want to head back to work anymore. A lot of people have said,
by and large,
the lockdown,
we're going to find that.
Oh, sorry, internet connections there. Problem there, Alex.
Sorry. Anyway, yes. And so I was saying that I think a lot of people have gotten used to being at home all the time. And I think, there's going to be a lot of different range of emotions that I think people are going to have come tomorrow morning, myself included. But I am really looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing what it looks like, seeing how your difficult things are. I do anticipate that some things will be easier, some things might not be so much, but we'll see. We're going to talk about a few of those things on the show today. And I'm just looking forward to getting out again.
Yeah, it is definitely awesome. As you guys know, and you, Alex, I've been out since last Thursday. So today I actually got message that they were taking down the barriers encircling our compound for the past 2 months. I got some footage. I'll bring it up just as we chat. That is my apartment building right there in the middle. And I just took this footage of them taking the wall down. I felt like it was really quite a significant moment. But there was an interesting thing because actually the lockdown doesn't end, as I said before, officially till midnight tonight. But of course, with these walls no longer up, people just can't be controlled anymore and people are going out, which I completely understand. But a lot of people in my compound still wouldn't come out, and I was in the group like, why is no one coming out? And they were like, it's not until midnight tonight. I was like, come out, go out. So a lot of people went out and had a look around. So like you were saying before, people really become used to it. So it's very interesting to see that even without the walls there, people are still feeling quite confined to home based on the official status of the lockdown not ending till midnight, which I found quite interesting.
I think part of it is a lot of people's sort of dogged adherence to the rules.
The rules.
Some people are more about that than others, as we know. But I think, in my compound is a little different. Obviously, I live in a larger compound, and so there are a lot more staff, security staff here. So we were not able to get out today. Although I did go downstairs and play a little bit of badminton downstairs. It was obviously a really nice, sunny, beautiful day today. And so, but there were a lot of people downstairs, a lot of kids downstairs playing and everything like that. And just sort of just chatting with some neighbors that I've met during this lockdown that I never would have spoken with otherwise. I think a lot of communities are different, but for me, I don't really, under normal circumstances, talk too much with my neighbors. It might be, if we're riding the same elevator, like, oh, hey, how you doing? Okay, good. It's really pretty much limited to that. But obviously, during the lockdown, we've had to help each other out with different things, and we've sort of established relationships with people that maybe we hadn't even met in person or hadn't really had a conversation with them. So we kind of did that today, but we weren't allowed out. But I do know that tomorrow morning I'll be out. I know that all of the Shanghai Metro System's 20 lines will be open again tomorrow. Obviously, it's been restricted to just a small number of lines, and none of them that come anywhere near my apartment or our office. So I was sort of fretting, like, how am I going to get to work tomorrow? But not only the entire Shanghai system, metro system opening up, but also Didi, which is the Uber here in China, the Uber equivalent. There's ride-sharing service, is also going to be open in any low-risk areas, which is the vast majority of the city. So actually, I got plenty of options done.
Yeah, or you could walk, which is pretty awesome too. Yesterday, actually, I want to play a quick video I did because it's interesting you mentioned about bigger compounds. They don't really have, you guys don't really have fences to pull down because you've already kind of in a gated community, I guess. But when I was walking or biking through Huangpu district yesterday, I came across the gates being taken down yesterday. And of course, even though the lockdown doesn't finish till midnight tonight, people were out and about enjoying themselves, having fun. And I want to play a quick report that I filed with Shanghai Daily yesterday, which goes over that situation. It was quite an awesome atmosphere, I reckon. So we'll check it out now. There's been an unusual sound breaking the silence in this part of Shanghai's Huangpu district today, as temporary lockdown walls are dismantled. Finally, these fences are being taken down, so we can go in. Let's check it out. For the past 2 months, the fences have been up surrounding all of these xiaochu or compounds, just like this. Now they're being taken down. Residents who have just now been allowed out are stretching their legs. Others are finally getting a chance to skate the streets for the first time in 2 months. Many, though, are more worried about getting back on their feet, including the owners of this fruit shop who are keen to get back to work. The majority of these fences, a common sight during lockdown, will slowly be removed in time for the city's reopening on June 1. So interestingly, Alex, I was saying before, in my compound, a lot of people weren't willing to go out, even though the fences have been taken down. But also, a lot of people are willing to go out. This was taken yesterday, obviously, and people, once the fences aren't there, there's no way to keep them in. A lot of people were just outside playing around, which was also cool to see. Oh, Alex, you might have internet connection problems. Maybe try to refresh. Alex isn't on at the moment. So what I'm going to do is quickly bring you guys to the latest numbers, which are very welcome, I think. Yep, wrong one. Here you can see the graphical representation of the last 2 months. And you can see we had a really high number of cases around the middle of April, which was quite devastating for the city. We went through our toughest times then, in April in general, to be quite honest, but the numbers have come right down, which is really awesome to see. all the way down to today where we have 22 and 9, which is still not zero, but it is in control, and the government is still happy to open up, which is awesome to see. Here are those cases found outside quarantine or lockdown areas, which is 0 and 0, which is what we want to see, obviously, and that will continue to happen, I'm pretty sure. No one wants to see us heading back into a lockdown, which wouldn't be ideal at all. Alex is back now. Alex, you there?
I am.
Connections, 5G, I don't like.
Anyway, so obviously the numbers are way down, as I'm sure you were just talking about. And so that's a good thing. And so I think that's the reason why the city is comfortable letting us out now. I am still home, but I see the comments. I am still at home, but again, that ends at midnight. And obviously I'm not going to go out at midnight or after midnight tonight. I need to be up in the morning to go to where you are, Andy, and get back to the office. But I suppose I could if I wanted to. But I am still locked at home, but that's only for another 4 hours or so.
Yeah, I've got to go with the team to do some filming just before midnight, as some of the tunnels and stuff are opened up. We're going to film them taking down the barriers, so that's still a few hours away. And then tomorrow morning, I've got to get up really early to take the first ferry on the Huangpu River from Puxi to Pudong, which will be interesting as well. Alex, you're welcome to come along.
I'm not sure. What time is that?
very early, like 7:30.
Yeah.
Hey, but let's chat to our colleague Yang Jian, I reckon, for the last time during this our live stream. We've had a lot of chats with Yang Jian, who is our Shanghai Daily colleague, who is in charge of monitoring or attending the daily press briefings, which were all held online during the lockdown. So let's welcome Yang Jian in again for the last time. Hey, how's it going?
Hi, good.
Awesome. So today, it was the last day, obviously, of the daily press briefings. So I wanted to know, since you've attended each one online, what was the feeling like today, and what sort of information did they give out?
I like to say it should be the most cheerful and inspiring press conference since the city's COVID resurgence in early March. And the vice mayor said with the joint efforts of all Shanghai citizens, the city's daily infection number has dropped to the double digit, and which means the pandemic has been under effective control. And she announced that the city will enter the next phase from tomorrow to make the life and the business fully restored. And she also explained in detail on how it's gonna work tomorrow, mainly on the community management, transport, and the business. And firstly, apart from the medium and high risk locked down and controlled areas, all residents can leave their communities freely. And the vice mayor stressed the neighborhood committees, the Zhuweihui, cannot restrict residents' movements with any excuse. And residents don't need the 72-hour PCR report to enter their own communities, but have to scan the venue code and get the temperature and greenhouse code checked at the entrance. And only non-residents, such as relatives, friends, housekeeping staff, are required to provide the 72-hour negative report to enter the community. And secondly, she said that the public transport, such as the metro, bus, taxi, and the ferry, will fully restore the normal operations. And the private cars can also hit the road without any pass required. And all public transport requires the 72-hour negative PCR report, which is counted from the sample collection time and the venue code scanning. And at the city's Pudong and Hongqiao airports, the number of domestic flights will be largely increased and gradually restored to the turnovers before the lockdown. And for international flights, the limitation on load factors will be extended. And currently, foreign airlines are required to limit their load factor to 40% on all international flights to Shanghai. And thirdly, a 75% capacity limit will be imposed on all the reopened shopping malls, stores, markets, parks, and as well as the outdoor tourism, and sports venues. But cinemas, museums, gyms, and other indoor venues will remain closed. And meanwhile, the government also announced to reduce the cost of PCR test to 16 yuan for a single tube testing and 3.5 yuan for a mixed testing from tomorrow. And all PCR tests at these normalized sites will be free through the end of June. And at the end of the press conference, the city's spokeswoman said emotionally that it was the 90th press conference since the resurgence on March the 1st, and from tomorrow it won't be held every day, but only when there is important announcement. And she said citizens have provided many suggestions, advices, criticisms, and encouragement, which are valuable to the city government. Andy.
All right, yeah, good. It's good to see. I did sort of anticipate that this press conference would be a more cheerful press conference than some of the ones in the recent past, right? I did want to ask you another thing about something that I'm really looking forward to, which is the reopening of public transportation, which is something that I use a lot, and I know millions of others in the city do as well. So the change is that Shanghai's public transportation system will be fully reopened. And so what sort of tips do you have about that, if you have any, to sort of help keep things orderly and make sure there aren't too many delays, kind of keep things rolling as close to normal as we can get?
Yes, the city's health promotion committee released some tips for employees who will return to work from tomorrow, and also for citizens to take the public transport or drive private cars. Because, like you said, there will be huge difference from before the lockdown. And it said before going out, everyone should firstly check the health code and the PCR test report to make sure it will be within 72 hours before they get to the metro or bus station. And secondly, of course, to wear a mask and bring a bottle of hand sanitizer to disinfect the hands after touching any public items such as the doorknobs or elevator buttons. And whenever there is a chance, people are suggested washing hands with flowing water and soap. And thirdly, make sure to bring the mobile phone because venue code scanning is required at every public transport or venue and even the community. And it said people should be cautious at some key areas, such as in the elevator, office, conference room, dining room, and the supermarket. And for metro riders, the operator Shen Tong said firstly, the intervals will be 5 to 10 minutes, which are still longer than its normal operation. And a detailed schedule has been publicized on its official WeChat account. And secondly, 7 stations of the Metro Line 2 and the Line 11 will remain closed because they are either near the makeshift hospitals which are still operating or the medium risk areas or within the neighboring Kunshan city of Jiangsu province. And they include the Metro Line 2's Hongqiao Railway Station and the Hongqiao Airport T2 terminal station. And thirdly, the operator predicted that the metro system will receive a large number of passengers right after its full restoration, especially between Friday and Sunday, which is the Dragon Boat Festival, when many travelers and students are expected on the metro. And for drivers, the city's traffic police said they should firstly well inspect the car since it has been parked for a long time, especially the fuel, electricity, and the tire. And secondly, to drive cautiously and avoid driving onto the highway immediately, but to firstly adapt to the traffic on the ground roads. Alex.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Yanji. And now it's been a long 2 months doing our live stream. We've had maybe 54 shows. I think you've been on most of our shows. So I want to say thank you so much for helping us out and filling us in with all this awesome information. And I wanted to ask you one more question before you go, because a lot of people are looking forward to getting back to work, but also some are not quite looking forward to getting back to work. So I was wondering, are you one of the people that's interested in looking forward to getting back to work?
Yeah, sure. I do miss the atmosphere of our office when every reporter is focusing on their own news stories. And when you work in the office, you will just be surrounded by the sound of tapping on the keyboards, and it is really good to be sit among the colleagues. And you can also always feel the vitality of the city in the newsroom, because reporters will share the latest news, and you can always hear the first-hand information from your colleagues. And also, our office has the great view right over the busy Yan'an Road elevated highway, and I'm looking forward to see it becomes filled with vehicles flow again.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Yanjian. I look forward to seeing you back in the office tomorrow.
See you soon.
Okay, see you soon.
Awesome. Bye-bye.
Yeah, so it's funny. It's funny. I think this is the first time in any of our lives, especially those of us in this city, who really are looking forward to seeing more traffic on the road.
Exactly. Just looking out now, yeah, it's still pretty dead. I don't know if you can remember back to when we first started our show on March 28th. The road is pretty empty. It's still very empty now because at the moment you still need a special pass in order to drive. And we've been lucky enough to drive around over the past, well, for me being out for about a week, but also they've been able to drive around for the past 2 months to do reports for Shanghai Daily. You're stopped quite often to show the passes, but that's all going to end tonight at midnight, which is awesome. Now, I do want to bring something up. Actually, I left it on the screen here, Alex, which is that venue code. Do you know what's about? Yang Jian was just saying you need to scan everywhere you go.
Right. So this is something that we're going to have to get used to. The venue code, which is a code that is, it's not a code that you have on your phone and you show, but rather a code that's different for each venue that will be posted outside. And then you'll need to use WeChat or Alipay. Just take your WeChat or Alipay out and scan the code. And what it does is it registers your information there. And the reason for that is just in case that there's some sort of positive or contact tracing or anything like that. It makes it easier for them to sort of track that down and keep it under control. And so it shouldn't be. I'm really hoping and I anticipate after all this time of doing this that it shouldn't be too difficult or arduous to do. But I think it is something that we're going to have to do. And I think it also is going to ensure that everyone has had their PCR tests within the last 72 hours and everything like that. And so it's just an easier way for them to sort of keep track of what's going on and stuff like that. So I think while it's obviously not something that we had to do before, and it's not, I don't think it's anything that everyone wants to do, but at the same time, it is going to be a requirement for everyone for any venue that you go into, at least for the foreseeable future. So just be ready for that. Have your phone ready. Obviously, during the pandemic, but pre-lockdown here in Shanghai, we did have to show our green QR health code to get into a lot of places. And so it's just going to be just a different version of that, more or less.
Yeah, basically what it's doing is I think it's superseding the green QR code. You had to just, like you said, this one is one you need to physically scan, whereas before we showed them the green code. So this will not only show the people that wherever you're going, that you've had a test within the last 72 hours, but also, like you said, to do with contact tracing. So there'll be some kind of, beep to wherever you've been and what time. So if there were any cases found in that area, they can track you down, which is a good idea. I think actually we were meant to do this before. It's just that no one did it. Because I know in other places in China, it's been going on for the last 2 years.
Yeah, I have heard friends from other cities in the country talk about this. I have some friends that live in Chengdu, and I think they're still doing that now. We didn't. I know that it was true for some particular venues in Shanghai, but it was really few and far between. But I think that moving forward, at least for the foreseeable future, that's going to be a requirement to get into most places. Andy, I did want to ask, because Yang Jian said something that I honestly, to be frank, hadn't heard and was really wondering about, and I actually was a bit pessimistic about this, which is we were going to be allowed to go into other people's compounds. I was anticipating having to meet, if I meet up with friends, just to chat or whatever it is, that we would have to do it outside of any compound, that we wouldn't be allowed into each other's compounds. And additionally, of course, IEs or cleaning people that you might hire to clean or whatever thing, fix something would be still prohibited to come into other compounds that they don't live in. Is that, did I hear him correctly in understanding that that's not the case? Yeah,
that's all going to end. It feels weird because we've been locked up for so long that we'd be able to have friends and stuff over. But actually, we will be able to from midnight tonight. And they said all that people who don't live in your compound need to do is scan that venue code that we just mentioned, and then show that they've had a 72-hour pass. Residents who live there don't need to do that. But also, a lot of places, it's all different all across the city. So, for example, my compound, there's no one manning the doors. When you go down from my building, it's just the street, and there's nobody there. So there's not going to be anyone checking that anyway. So I guess if you live in a compound like your one, where there's security on a gate you got to go through, they may ask, but I reckon they actually probably won't, to be honest. I did go see a friend last night, before it was even, the lockdown hasn't even been lifted yet, but they were in one of those areas where the fences had been torn down and everything, and it was all fine. Just go in, visit my friend. So I think, we've been on edge lately, locked at home, feeling like, the home is kind of locked off, but I think it's all going to open up from midnight tonight.
Yeah, so before the lockdown, so this would have been, this would have been in late March when there were lockdowns here and there. There were some cases popping up. Different communities were being locked down. I did go a few times to the house of a friend of mine who lives in Shanghai district, lives closer to the office from where I do. And, obviously this is late March before the lockdown citywide. And they already had a venue code up, right? So what happened was they had been locked down for, I think, just 48 hours at some point, and then they were released because there were no positives. And then they stuck a venue code, a QR code up on the wall, like right when you walk. It was in a small compound, much, much, much smaller than mine. And so when I walked in, I was just going to walk in because they were, not under lockdown. I was like, So I was like, oh, she's directed me to scan the code. And so I did. And then they're like, okay, go in. And so I hope that that's what's going to be happening in most compounds. Now, I know that throughout, as we all know, and as we've discussed ad nauseum, throughout the last 2 months and change, the Juehui or neighborhood committees have really had they've wielded a lot of power in terms of what people can and can't do, who can and can't enter or leave, and what can and can't enter or leave. And they've been swinging their sword in that regard. And so hopefully, we'll see. Personally, I hope that I can tomorrow, if I want or whenever, go back to my friend's house or someone else's house and say, hey, I've got my PCR test, and scan the venue code and I can go in. I hope that's true, and I hope that the Juehui doesn't try to block me from doing that. I don't know if that's going to be true for 100% of the city. Obviously, it's how stuff that can happen. But I'm really looking forward to doing that. I hope that fingers crossed on that.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the government statement yesterday that was about the lockdown lifting today. It was they had quite strict wording for the Juehui. They were saying under no circumstances, obviously unless there's cases, can they restrict movement and things like that. So I really think you will be able to go and visit people and have friends come over as normal after midnight tonight. You could even have a party tonight, Alex.
Yes, again, I need to get up in the morning as well. Maybe not quite as early as you, but I think I'll refrain from
maybe another time.
Perhaps over the 3-day weekend holiday, where Friday here begins the national holiday for Duanwujie or Dragon Boat Festival, and so we'll be off Friday as well. And so I really hope that the weather's nice. I did see that it might rain this weekend, which is a drag.
Even tomorrow it might rain.
All right, but hopefully it stays relatively nice like it was today. Today was a perfect day, and then we can actually go out and maybe, again, I think that obviously we're still sort of advised to avoid huge outdoor gatherings for obvious reasons, and then also make sure to wear masks and things like that. But that's fine. I can do that. I'm really looking forward to seeing some of my friends and obviously you guys, my colleagues as well, and sort of hanging out a little bit, having some fun.
We can eat zongzi, right? Zongzi is for the Dragon Boat Festival, right?
That's correct. Zongzi, yeah, is the tetrahedral shaped little rice.
I got my little book here. This is really useful, Alex.
Yeah, right. Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Chinese vessels. So apparently with the Dragon Boat Festival, they made zongzi to throw into the river to stop them eating the body of an important historical figure whose name I can't remember, who committed suicide by jumping into the river. So apparently every Dragon Boat Festival, you need to throw zongzi in to distract the fish and everything from eating his body. So that's a little bit morbid, but historically accurate. Yeah. Right. Hey, we've got an interesting comment here. Mark Kerr says, I'm very sarcastically, obviously, I'll be looking forward to all the positive news from the Western media about the reopening of Shanghai. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, to be quite honest. Given, I'll go ahead.
I have seen some reports on it already. I'm not. I haven't had the chance to read it. I think the New York Times is talking about it. I don't know. Maybe.
Oh God.
Well, I don't know. I haven't read the story yet. I had somebody who told me that the New York Times, somebody who I hadn't sort of updated about what's happening tomorrow, and said the New York Times says that Shanghai's opening up tomorrow. And I was like, yep, that's accurate. And I don't know if they had any bent on it or any sort of anything like that. I haven't read it yet, so I can't speak to it. But they are talking.
I wonder if they had the word draconian in there. I could almost guarantee they would. But also, Channel News Asia, they're pretty good. Singapore-based media outlet. They contacted me today to use some of my video of some of the walls being taken down. So I'll keep a look out for that. You guys can have a look too. Kevin James Ng asks, would other compounds have QR codes for track and trace scan? Yes. Technically, you should scan the QR code if you're visiting a friend in another compound or if they're visiting you. Yeah, we'll see what happens in reality. Hey, let's check out some of the interesting facts and figures from the whole lockdown, which actually on Shanghai Daily website on shine.cn, we have this really interesting story, which is like a timeline. It's actually by Yang Jian. It's a timeline of all of the significant happenings. You might want to go read it. I won't read it all here, but I will share some data with you. This is a really sad image from before public transportation opened. Obviously, this person was trying to get out of the city. But we have here all the information, March 1, March 10, March 11. Companies were encouraged to stagger working hours and just all the way to the lead up. But this is what I want to talk about. And I have made some details here, some lockdown facts and figures. I'll just share these really quickly. The total infections, there were more than 620,000 total cases of COVID. Did you think it was that many, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of had in my mind a pretty accurate ballpark figure, just because if you think about it and kind of mentally tally up all the different numbers that have been reported day by day throughout this whole situation, it that pretty much checks out. Yeah,
it's a lot of cases. Close contacts. Obviously, if you're discovered or you're found to be a close contact of a positive case, you also need to still head into central quarantine. There were nearly 1 million close contacts related and isolated. So you can kind of get a feeling. If you see this number here, Alex, 627,000 plus 1 million. All of these people needed to go into central isolation or quarantine during the 2 months. So you can kind of see how the city was, how Shanghai was just so overwhelmed, especially in April.
Yeah, I mean, if you think that just the logistics behind that in terms of transporting people, as well as having enough places for these people to go, obviously moving 1.5 million people. Yeah, right, of course, as we all know. So moving 1.5 million people into, out of their homes and into other facilities for them to live for, what could be a short stay, but it could be an extended stay, obviously is was quite the struggle.
Yeah, very much. So you can kind of understand in hindsight, now that we're coming out of it, looking back to April, mainly April, why Shanghai was kind of so paralyzed. I think it would be fair to say the city was paralyzed, trying to keep up with COVID zero policies with that many cases. Recovered people, we had more than 627,000 total cases. So 625,000 have fully recovered. So that means there are currently 2,000 people undergoing medical treatment or medical observation who still have COVID-19. So hopefully they'll be out pretty soon. And here's the total deaths. What did you think of that number, Alex? Is it a surprise?
I don't know. I think, I wouldn't say it's a surprise. Obviously, it's not something that we want to see that number at all. But at the same time, I think there are a few things that we have to consider, at least in my opinion, about that is, firstly, that's less than 1%. That's actually quite far less, than 1% of the people. So, so I think that that's something to keep in mind. And I think that's good because it shows us that perhaps, it's not the most dangerous virus that we've ever seen, especially compared to previous pandemics that China, Asia, and the world have experienced, right? But extremely communicable. I think, obviously, as we talked about before, the vaccination rate amongst the elderly at the start of this outbreak was not ideal. It wasn't great. It was in the 60s in terms of percent. And so I think the vast majority of the people who did succumb to the disease were in that category, elderly, unvaccinated, and or with pre-existing conditions that made them especially vulnerable. So, yeah, I think that those are sort of my takeaways.
Yeah, it seems, 500, when you're talking about a city, like you said, of 25.6 million, 588 doesn't seem high, but don't forget, people, that the city was completely locked down for 2 months and we still had 588 deaths. So I'm not sure, I'm not an epidemiologist, I'm not sure what the numbers would be if we let it rip per se, but yeah, I won't go on.
Well,
Highest symptomatic cases, the day with the highest number of symptomatic cases was April 28th, with 5,487 in one day. That's quite high for symptomatic because as the outbreak began, we did see that most of the cases, the vast majority, were asymptomatic.
right. Yeah. There was I'm not sure how to interpret that data point, because if you actually look at that graph of the symptomatic cases, there was a really big spike on one day on April 28th. Right there.
Oh, right. Yes.
Really huge spike, which obviously it doesn't make sense statistically. So I think there's got to be some sort of reason for that. And I would speculate, again, speculation here, that it might have something to do with a glut of symptomatic cases from previous days being reported on that one particular day, because obviously you don't have to be a statistician to look at that and say, what? So
something's up.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it could even be like the case with Wuhan in 2020, where they were averaging around 4,000 cases a day at the peak. And then on one day, they had over 14,000. That was when the qualification for a positive case or something changed. So they suddenly had a higher number. But yeah, you're right. That is an anomaly. But the next one, though, I think is not, looking at this, could be. The day with the highest number of asymptomatic cases was April 10. With more than 25,000. And that doesn't even take into account that day's symptomatic cases. So, yeah, that was a tough time.
Yeah, I mean, that was sort of the peak of it. Obviously, that was 10 days into the citywide lockdown. And so that was kind of the crest of the wave, so to speak. Do you notice this is one that I unfortunately, it doesn't shock me, but it does make me feel a little bit depressed, is that last one there, medical waste disposal of more than 69,000.
There we go.
Oh my! I mean, as a person who is, by and large, I mean, I am somebody who is particularly concerned about the environment. Maybe not to the extent of our vegan guest that we had earlier, right?
Yeah.
She made a lot. I'm not being facetious here. She made a lot of really, really good points about how veganism is good for the environment. I just haven't taken it to that level yet. Maybe I should. But at the same time, 69,000 tons of medical waste is, and we know, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I'm saying we know that a lot of waste, plastics and other things, find a way sometimes to meander into oceans and waters and other things like that. And I'm not saying they're not going to take all that waste and dump it in the sea, obviously. But yeah, I'm saying it just happens sometimes, and so really that's just a lot of trash. That's a lot of medical waste. And so I hope that it's dealt with in the most efficient way possible.
Yeah, for sure. I want to show you guys a trick that I always do. This is just thinking about sea creatures. What I do when I throw away a mask, because this can strangle animals in the sea or strangle or become entangled. So what I do before I throw the mask away is just do that and cut the strings. I don't know if it really helps, but I read somewhere online and I've just got into the habit. So I don't know. You see a lot of animals like turtles and stuff with tied up with waste. So I don't know. I think it seems like a good thing to do.
I can't believe I never heard any. That's the first time I've heard that suggested. I will absolutely be doing that in the future.
I think it makes sense. You reckon?
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, definitely. And obviously, with not just here in Shanghai or in China, but in the entire world, with the number of think about the sheer number of disposable masks that have been discarded since the pandemic. I mean, it's billions and billions. I mean, obviously. So, I'm sure. I don't even want to think about how many of those are floating around in the ocean right now.
It's tough. And the numbers are so high, like the 69, what was it, 69,000 tons? I can't even imagine what that is, but I know it just by seeing, even just in my compound, the amount of, Kangyuan, the RAT test we did, just one person.
These things here.
Right.
Like billions of these masks, not only that, the dabai, the hazmat, and they're not called hazmat suits.
They throw it away every time. Yeah.
Throwing those away, the bottles and the vials from all of this. Like, look, I still got a ton of COVID test stuff. All of this stuff, the sticks were plastic, and the tubes and everything. All of this stuff, and so. Yeah, it's tough to think about that. I mean, obviously, you got to do what you got to do. Hopefully, it's just being dealt with properly, because as someone who thinks about this kind of stuff, it's just like, man, woof.
It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. Hey, John Lee, thank you so much for I think that's called a super sticker. And he says, very glad to see it coming to an end. We're also very glad to see it coming to an end. Thank you for that, and thanks for watching. We have a lot of comments here about the situation in Australia. The cases there are rising, 8,521 deaths in Australia so far. That's not ideal, especially considering I have a lot of family there, but people are taking care of themselves. So thanks for that update there. And Veloci also says they've never been tested. I have tests here that have never opened. Each to their own, I guess. Oh, back to our numbers. I'm not finished. We have two more. Vaccination. The city's total vaccination rate is over 90%, but that is not the case for elderly people who are the most vulnerable, which is a shame.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously better than what it was. If you look at it pre-outbreak, pre-surge, I guess we can call it, it was 86% partially and 82% fully. I'm not sure. And do you know if that refers, if you've had 2 shots, are you fully, or do you need 3 shots to be fully vaccinated?
In China, you need 2 shots to be fully vaccinated, and then the booster is just considered booster.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so we've got 86% partially vaccinated. I guess that would one shot, and then 82% fully vaccinated. But amongst the elderly population, it was in the mid to low 60s. Now it's above 90 for everyone, and it's above 80 for the elderly. Now, obviously, that isn't enough when you think about how many 25.6 million people, and the city does have a relatively high average age of its citizens, and so my only thought on that is it's good to see improvement, and I hope that the city can use a similar level of energy and zeal and sort of comprehensiveness to vaccinate. I mean, the comprehensiveness and the zeal and just the absolute, they've gone really hard in terms of making everyone do PCR tests all the time, which fine, but I hope that they can go equally hard in making sure that everyone gets vaccinated, including the elderly, so that way maybe we don't have to do PCR tests from now until the end of time.
Fingers crossed. But see, the national amount and the Shanghai amount, they're quite different. Shanghai obviously in blue, national in the goldy color here. I think Shanghai, maybe for the past 2 years, because Shanghai has dealt with COVID before this for the past 2 years very, very well. So I wonder if we were, kind of like the Titanic, a bit too confident. What do you reckon, Alex?
I don't know. I mean, again, so this graph here in particular, I may have misspoke. I apologize if I did. So this graph is the national. This is all people 60 or over. The national average is the beige color of 86 and 82, and this was on May 22nd, pre-outbreak. And then what this graph is telling us is that the elderly population in Shanghai was vaccinated at a much lower rate than the elderly population in other parts of the country. That could have been due to a number of factors. I don't really want to speculate too much on that because I'm not really sure. But at the same time, it's just good to see that it's higher than it was, I suppose.
For sure. Now the last bit of information, the last fact or figure is our live stream. We did 54 live streams during the entire lockdown. That's a lot of live streams. That's 54 hours at least.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you, Andy. I know that you and I, despite being colleagues, really we sort of work on different sort of projects, and so we hadn't really cooperated on anything until this, and so it's been cool to work with you. I really appreciate it. And Andy does a lot of the legwork on this. He's the guy who runs the stream, and he puts
the one breaking it
out, and he's the one who puts the comments on the screen. The comments don't just appear on the screen. He chooses comments to put on the screen and everything like that. So I appreciate that. I think that, obviously we never thought that we would have to do a lockdown live stream. And then when we did realize, what I remember that meeting, the production meeting that we had when it first came up, we thought it was going to be 8 days, right? We thought it was going to be 4 days in the office and 4 days at home, and then it turned out to be a whole lot longer than that. So, cheers.
A little bit longer. No, Alex, it's been good working together. I think actually I found during this whole time that we balance each other out pretty well, which I think is pretty cool. When you're feeling down, I usually go up, and then when I'm feeling down, you go up. I've noticed, which is awesome. I think we brought some different, points of view and stuff to the mix. So I hope that you guys also enjoyed our live stream. But what I want to do really quickly is show just a small clip from our first live stream. Well, actually, this isn't our first one. Do you remember, Alex, our first one on March 28th? We told the boss to delete it because it was so bad. So the first one you can find online is March 29th. Let's check it out.
So the first one had a lot of connectivity issues, and we sort of resolved them at least partially by the next day. So this was our first. So our first one, I think, on the 28th was kind of a test run, and this was our first.
Right. Let's say that. Yeah. Oh, is it going to play now? Come on.
Hey, you guys, welcome to Alex and Andy Live. I'm Andy.
And I'm Alex.
Obviously, now we're here talking about Shanghai's phased lockdown, which actually started yesterday in Pudong. Now, Pudong is the area, of course, east of the river here, highlighted in green, as well as Chongming Island.
Low tech.
Jinshan district, and some parts of Shanghai.
It's quite low tech, Alex.
Which have been locked down since. So we're going to talk about this since March 28th till April 1st, right? 5 a.m. And as soon as that's closed down, opened up again, right? Kuxi, which is the blue area, will go into lockdown on the 1st of April at 3 a.m. in the morning until the 5th of April at 3 a.m. Now, during that time, no one's allowed to leave home. Obviously, no one can go to work. Public transport is all closed down, which isn't because public transport.
It's kind of like watching a school project, Alex.
It is a little bit like that. Obviously our production value, obviously, with both of us being locked in our apartments, and obviously I still am, is not amazing. And obviously, this is something that we kind of decided to do. I don't want to say last minute, but it was an idea that was kind of hatched and birthed and sort of incubated at a very quick pace. And so, but I think we figured it out. Say, fortunately, we don't have. And I'm not saying this as far as I enjoy doing it, but fortunately, meaning that we're out of lockdown now, so we don't need to continue the show. Hopefully, we won't have to do it in the future again. Obviously, that goes without saying. But I do think that if we were under the unfortunate circumstance of having to continue on, I think that we've sort of honed it and refined it a bit.
Yeah, I think for sure. This was actually, even for me, the first time I've done live streaming on a regular basis that I'll control myself. So I think for me as well, I learned a lot about the technology running these apps and stuff. And I hope for the viewers, they noticed that our show got a little bit, apart from the internet connection problems, got a little bit more professional as we went along. Someone's asked the question, do you do this live stream on behalf of Shanghai Daily or for yourselves? We do this live stream on behalf of Shanghai Daily for our work, obviously. So you may be watching on Reports on China YouTube or my personal Twitter account, but it actually is run through Shanghai Daily.
Right. Yes. So Shine, obviously the online platform, Shanghai Daily, and so we're running it through that. Yes, this is part of our responsibilities for Shanghai Daily, and this is how we have been able to report on the lockdown and sort of disseminate the information that we get from the city, and also our colleagues who were able during this lockdown to travel around the city, collect information, interview people, and sort of. So we just this live stream is a way for us to get on a almost daily basis to spend and sort of just give that information to our viewers and to the English-speaking population in the city.
Yeah, I think I cross my fingers that we've done something that people needed or wanted in some way. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to check out some of our previous, I don't know why you would, because it's kind of based very much on the news of the day. But if you're bored, we have all our shows here on shine.cn. There's a lot of them. As I said before, we did 54 shows. Gee.
Yes. Well, obviously, when we get back into the office, we'll revert to working on our normal content. Andy, obviously, he can tell you a little bit about his. He's got his Reports on China series, and And for me, I've got a weekly column that has actually been on hiatus for the last few weeks. My column is called The Commotion Metric, and it's on both Shine, but it's on Shine on the WeChat platform, but also in Shanghai Daily's paper, a print newspaper. And column is about sort of lifestyle and sort of the perks and idiosyncrasies of life in Shanghai. I'm sure I can find it there. I don't know, but anyway, it's called The Commotion Metric. And yeah, I haven't done it in a while. I think that's why it's
here. We go.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll just
I can't find it. Anyway.
Yeah, you can search the name of the column and find it. Anyway, and so I look forward to getting back to talking about this different lifestyle, and interesting things that are happening in the city. Obviously, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next few days, and so I'll be writing about that and also making some videos, hopefully when the food and beverage industry and sports and everything like that gets back to normal, which are some topics that I like to make videos about as well. So look forward to that. Even after our live stream ends, you can still pay attention to the two of us and our colleagues as well.
Yeah, we hope you do. Check out shine.cn, or do follow us also on WeChat, Shanghai 日报, Shanghai Daily Shine. There's some a few comments here. A balanced view is what we ought to seek. I don't know if they're meaning about our stream, but I do think our stream was pretty balanced. I'll just read some comments people have said. Jay Lee said, thanks, awesome, keep up the great work. And Grace W says, appreciate your exceptional efforts in the past 2 months. Thanks, Alex and Andy, for keeping us informed. iGlow said, I watched almost every night, even though I'm in Australia. Great insights. Thank you so much for watching. Kevin James Ing says, it's been a magnificent 54 episodes. Thank you so much, Kevin, for being here and watching so many of our shows and taking part and leaving comments. It's really awesome. Zhu Guoliang says, it's good to see Shanghai's gradually opening up. Now Beijing will have to get their act together. Yes, that is true. Brick Live says, end of the series. Yes, for sure. And on that note, I think that's pretty much it, Alex.
All right. Well, farewell, everyone. Again, you can still paying attention to our content. Our content is just going to shift back to normality, where obviously we're going to continue to talk about what life in Shanghai is like post lockdown. Obviously, it's not post pandemic yet at this point, but hopefully, as the city sort of returns, is rejuvenated, we can talk about sort of how that's going. And so we look forward to bringing that to you. Thank you, everybody, for following us during this lockdown, and for those of you who are located in the city, it looks like we made it. And so let's get outside tomorrow. Yeah.
Let's rejoice. Awesome, you guys. On that note, if you're in Shanghai, like Alex said, enjoy, get outside, walk around, breathe the fresh air. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you probably, hopefully, not in another lockdown live stream series. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.